Now for the election campaign debate on population, and joining us in our Brisbane studio is Tony Burke, the Minister for Sustainable Population. Here in Sydney is Scott Morrison, the opposition's spokesman on immigration. Thanks to both of you for being here.
G'day, Tony.
Good
evening, Tony. G'day, Scott.
Tony Burke, we'll start with you. Can you seriously have a debate on population without a debate on immigration numbers?
Yeah, I believe you can, because the starting point of the debate has to be about quality of life, and we have radically different pressures on that in different parts of Australia. We have parts of Australia where to get major projects off the ground, we need more people, and we have other parts of Australia where infrastructure pressures are bursting at the seams. So the distribution of population within the country is actually the biggest pressure of all. Now, feeding into that, there's a whole series of policy issues that become relevant. Immigration is one of them, but you don't start this as saying it's about an immigration debate, because the pressures are far, far more complex than that.
Well, the former Labor leader, Mark Latham, has belled the cat here. He says if it's not an immigration debate, it's not a debate, it's a fraud. It's an attempt to con, he says, the people of Western Sydney and obviously others facing population pressures due to immigration.
He doesn't often have a good word to say about us these days. That's been the pathway with Mark for a while now. I think with this, you just have to look at what the facts are. And you have radically different pressures in different parts of Australia. Getting that regional difference right and looking at the question of quality of life actually gets you into a whole range of issues that the public have been saying for years. We ought to coordinate these things better. And it goes to infrastructure, it goes to planning issues, it goes to urban encroachment on the environment through endless urban sprawl. And yes, immigration's part of it, but it is not an immigration debate at its core.
Are you running away from an immigration debate? Because this is also what Julia Gillard says. This isn't about immigration, yet plainly immigration feeds hugely into the numbers of people living in the major cities.
Oh, look, it's part of it. I mean, as you know, I'm in Queensland at the moment. The population pressures that they've had, immigration's played a significant role probably in the last handful of years, but largely the growth in southeast Queensland and the pressures there have been people moving from regional parts of Queensland into the southeast corner, and in particular people moving from New South Wales and Victoria up here. So the planning pressures, particularly in hotspots like the Gold Coast, where you've got infrastructure pressures that are massive there now, it's a pretty tough call to say that the key argument and starting point of dealing with this is immigration. It's just the facts don't stack up that way.
All right, let's go to Scott Morrison. Same question to you. Can you have a debate on population without a debate on immigration numbers?
Well, of course you can't. I mean, our current population is growing at more than 2% per year. It peaked out at about 2.2% the previous year. And the rest of the world is growing at around about 1%. And so our rates of population growth at the moment are clearly adding to the problem. Even the intergenerational report says to get to a population of 36 million, you've got to reduce the rate of net overseas migration to 180,000, down from its current position of almost 300,000. The long-term average growth rate on the intergenerational report is 1.2%. So if this government is serious and is not just going to try and fake it until they make it on this issue all the way till the election, then they have to address the population pressures that are coming through immigration. 2/3 of the increase in population is coming through immigration. And so if that's not part of the debate, then I don't know what these guys are going on about. You've got to focus on the things that you can address. Now, they can talk about all these other issues. They're all really important. But those things are not going to solve themselves in the next term of government. What you can do in the next term of government is ease the pressure on those problems by throttling back. And if this government's not prepared to throttle back, then they are trying to put one over the Australian people.
OK, well, a question to you. How much is the coalition prepared to throttle back, that is, lower levels of migration to Australia?
Well, we've made it quite clear that we do not think 285, 300,000 net overseas migration is sustainable. We've also made it clear that we're not comfortable with the 36 million projection, which the government says they're not comfortable with. And
OK, let's get this straight. Let's look at the mathematics then,
sure.
Because the Treasury's intergenerational report says you'll reach 36 million on an intake of 180,000 migrants per year. So you're, in fact, talking about going below that, are you?
You need to get to at least that. The Intergeneration report says by 2012 you would have to be hitting 180,000 net overseas migration per year. Now, we've said that we would put in place a process with the Productivity Commission, which we announced this in April, the Productivity and the Sustainability Commission, to set what is a sustainable rate of growth. An upper limit, a lower limit, and it'll be up to the government to stay within that path.
All right, but I'm going to stick with you just for a moment. Just on the figures alone, you're talking about lowering the rate of immigration by more than 100,000 per year.
Well, until we can get different advice from the Productivity Commission, then we don't believe that the rate of growth is sustainable at its current level, and to achieve what the 36 million figure says, well, that's 180,000 net overseas migration. So clearly there has to be a throttling back. Now, we're committed to go down that path. The government says it's not about immigration, and